Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for you, tell me what you gonna do, when it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you, 'cause it's gonna come for you.
Making it for water, easy, see something Charlie. Little boo God's got him, and I'm gonna miss everybody out of row and flow like I ain't looked at a while. Like I'm praying for dust, and they play too deep for peace. Little legs I got to be. Tell me your feature deceased, would it please? Marry me by my grand, when you can go follow
God bless you, working on a plan to heaven.
Happy New Year. Welcome back to CrosUp, your first weekly look at the week that was for 2025. This week I'll be running through the end of last year and the beginning of this year, starting on Rampage on December 27th, and finishing up on the SmackDown from January 3rd, as well as covering World's End that happened last weekend as well. So we'll start with the very last Rampage. No more Rampage after this week, so this is the last one. I think they signed a new TV contract, and they just wanted to cut back on their programming a little bit, and Rampage was mostly a joke for the grand scheme of things. You know, during the Continental Classic, it was kind of used for some lower card matches on that one, I guess you could say. But yeah, this is the very last one, so we'll get right into it. Chris Jericho opens things up, defeating Anthony Bowens via pinfall, following an accidental belt shot from Bowen's tag team partner Max Caster, who was fighting over the belt with Brian Keith and accidentally hit his partner, and Jericho just took advantage from there. We then get Private Party. They come out and squash Alec Price and Leo Sparrow when they hit the gin and juice on Price at about the 1 minute mark. We then get a post-match attack where Leo Rush and Action Andretti, who are going to face Private Party, I think they faced them on Collision that I'll talk about next weekend, of course. But they attack Private Party, and then Top Flight, who's kind of been feuding with Leo and Action Andretti since they kind of broke up, comes out and kind of tries to save Private Party. When they get Powerhouse Hobbs, he says he's ready to take the International Championship from Takeshita. So they will face each other at World's End, obviously. So he's telling everybody he's ready. We then get Thunder Rosa defeating Layla Gray via submission with the seated Cobra Clutch. We then get the last match in Rampage history, for now, of course, in case they bring it back in the future. But Hook defeats Nick Wayne via submission with the Red Rum. And then all hell breaks loose after that. And the Death Riders have been in the back, and they attack Darby Allin. They Pillmanize his neck, and they kick him down a flight of stairs, which feels like a normal Friday for him, of course. He gets his ass kicked pretty regularly on all the programs. The Death Riders then with a chair come in and have a chat in the ring. Moxley thinks the fans are booing him, really hate themselves, and there are a lot of people who don't like the things that he does. If anyone has a problem with what he does and the Death Riders do, come out and tell him to his face. Commander then answers the call. He is beaten down pretty quickly. Top Flight comes out, gets pretty much the same treatment. And Willow Nightingale and Orange Cassidy then come out, and then Jay White and Hangman Page join them, and they kind of brawl throughout. The locker room pretty much clears out, and we get a absolute huge brawl to kind of end things. But the Death Riders are able to escape and destroy some tech equipment, leaving the arena kind of in the dark. And then we go to a tech truck where Moxley officially ends the show, literally and figuratively. So he signs us off for our very last Rampage. So like I said, they may bring it back in the future, but they didn't really use it for much other than to maybe feature some lower card talent that wasn't getting used on Collision or Dynamite. It's not a program or not a show that they need, and it won't probably be missed by many. But the main event was the best set match, Hook and Nick Wayne. So definitely check that one out if you are so inclined. We'll then go to World's End. We don't have a Collision this week because World's End was on a Saturday. We get our first match was one of the semifinals in the Continental Classic, and that is Will Ospreay defeating Kyle Fletcher via pinfall with a Styles Clash to advance to the finals. Obviously, they have been feuding a lot lately as well, so just a little bit more fuel to that fire. But Ospreay gets his win back from Full Gear. We then get our second semifinal where Kazuchika Okada defeats Ricochet via pinfall following the Rainmaker. Swerve Strickland, who's kind of been talking shit back and forth with Ricochet lately, he comes out on the stage with a microphone. He congratulates Ricochet for reaching as far as Swerve did last year, but he reminds Ricochet that he did say he was going to win the whole thing and ask him why he didn't. He says he warned him that if he blew it, he was going to embarrass him. Swerve expected him to run his mouth, and that's exactly what Ricochet did. Swerve is going to have to clean up his mess. Prince Nana then goes back and gets a wagon full of toilet paper, which has kind of become Ricochet's thing that people throw toilet paper at him. And I believe a fan had already thrown one roll at him before all this started. But Nana then wheels it towards the ring and starts handing them out to fans. Swerve says they all want to help Ricochet, and they want a clean slate for Ricochet for 2025. Swerve then says Orlando can wish Ricochet a happy birthday, and they count down from 3, 1, 2, 3, and Ricochet stands still in the middle of the ring and absolutely just gets pelted with toilet paper, which ends up being a pretty good visual. And Swerve then says, "Happy New Year, Trevor," and smiles as he walks to the backstage. So maybe not a necessary segment for a pay-per-view, but it did have some entertainment value to it, I would say. We then get Will Ospreay getting interviewed in the back. He's getting tended to as well because he had a huge gusher in that opening match. He got thrown like face first into like one of the video boards that's kind of serves as the barricade for their events. And I don't know if it was hard way or if he cut himself, but he cut himself deep because he was bleeding profusely. But he's getting tended to, kind of getting interviewed by Renee. Ospreay says ask if he looks all right. He says it doesn't matter. He'll need Orlando to carry him through the other match that he's going to have tonight. He lives for this, and although it feels like he's been hit by a truck, he's going to beat Okada, and he's going to go to Disneyland or Disney World afterwards. So Ospreay's full of jokes here and is feeling pretty lighthearted about a probably not so good situation that he's going through. But we'll go to our next match. Mariah May defeats Thunder Rosa via pinfall following a Storm Zero off the apron through the table in what was a Tijuana street fight. They used the weapons and brawled pretty well, but with the two talents involved, I think it was pretty disappointing overall. We then get the MJF Adam Cole match. MJF is able to defeat Adam Cole via pinfall following a low blow, and then he hits the Heat Seeker. MJF grabs a steel chair after the match and demands his music be cut as he wants everyone to hear him break Adam Cole's leg. He looks to Pillmanize his angle, but the Undisputed Kingdom music hits, and Roderick Strong rushes down to help. MJF heads up the ramp, but here comes Kyle O'Reilly from behind to bring MJF back to the ring. MJF is caught between Strong and O'Reilly, and they take him out with a high-low. Cole and O'Reilly then hug, so seemingly O'Reilly is all good with the Undisputed Kingdom now after months of kind of, pushing away their advances. They then all hold MJF back while Cole smacks MJF in the face with his Dynamite Dozen ring. Cole, O'Reilly, and Strong then hug, and now Bennett and Taven come to join the fray for a big group hug, as we seemingly have a new member in the Undisputed Kingdom of Kyle O'Reilly. So they're growing their numbers. I guess the conglomeration is all but over now because we haven't seen them in a while kind of be together, and one of their core members, and Kyle O'Reilly, is obviously gone. So and joined another group, I mean. But we'll move from there. We get Konosuke Takeshita defeating Powerhouse Hobbs to retain his international championship when he hits the Raging Fire and pins him. We then get Renee with Kazuchika Okada backstage. He says, yes, Ospreay is on another level, but he is not on his level, bitch. So keeping up the gimmick of saying bitch after everything. So pretty good gimmick he's got going there in his interviews. We then get Mercedes Moné defeating Chris Statlander via pinfall with a seatbelt roll-up, I believe is what it's called. But very unique kind of pinfall there, but they killed it again. Mercedes has probably gotten a lot more vitriol than maybe she deserves in some cases, even by me, myself. But Her and Statlander seem to at least have a ton of chemistry. So we'll see if Mercedes can kind of pull things out with anybody else. But she is at least she's at least had a few pretty good to really good matches with Chris Statlander. So she's got my praise for now. So we'll see if she can pull it out with some other talents. But her and Statlander seem to be pretty good together. We then get the Continental Classic final where Okada defeats Will Ospreay via pinfall following the Rainmaker. This means he not only wins the Continental Classic, but through all of this, he retains his Continental Championship. So obviously, if he had lost at any point, he would have lost the Continental Championship in the semifinals or finals. I mean, but he won the Classic and also retained his championship in that process. We then get Christopher Daniels. He comes out to applaud Okada. He says normally this is where he'd present Okada with the championship title, but he can't do that because as of today, he's no longer an EVP of All Elite Wrestling. But this man is. And then Kenny Omega makes his triumphant return. He grabs the Continental Championship, heads down to the ring. Omega is wearing a suit, looks pretty sharp, but he comes face to face with Okada and hands him the belt. Okada then holds it above his head while he's locking eyes with Omega, and Omega applauds. Kenny then exits the ring while Okada is left, looking kind of concerned about the fact that Kenny Omega is back. And then we go to our main event where Jon Moxley defeats Orange Cassidy, Jay White, and Hangman Page when he hits the Death Rider on Jay White following some interference from Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. Claudio then brings a chair into the ring, but the music of FTR hits, so they come out. They haven't been medically cleared, but they are here anyways, of course. And then the lights go out and the words "rated FTR" come on the screen. And old Adam Copeland is back from injury. Obviously, last year he was in the cage match and broke his leg. So he was recovering from that for a while. But then he's back to at World's End. And him and FTR run to the ring. FTR pretty quickly get rid of Claudio and Yuta. Taking them out of the ring. They hit a shatter machine on Yuta, and Copeland steps into the ring and comes face to face with Mox. FTR leave them to it and kind of giving them a little bit of space. Copeland rebounds off the ropes to take out Moxley with a spear. Copeland then breaks off a bar of the steel chair, which kind of comes one of his gimmicks, and does a bar assisted crossface on Moxley. Claudio then manages to free Moxley and pull him to safety. Copeland then takes the mic, but it seems to not work, so he gets another one. And he says, "You all are mine, and we're taking it all back." So he is promising revenge for all of All Elite Wrestling, and him and FTR are going to take this company back. I hope not, because I really wish Edge would retire, and him and Mox makes me want to unalive myself, the thought of that match and or rivalry. So I hope this doesn't last too terribly long, and whoever is going to beat Mox hurries up and does it. So but I thought the best match of the night was the Continental Classic final. All three Continental Classic matches were great, but Okada and Ospreay would be my number one match from that show. Just an absolute classic with two all-time workers. Just killing it out there. So, but we'll move from there to Raw. New Day gets things started, and the fans obviously are pretty pissed at him from what they did to Big E from a month ago. The fans won't even let them talk until Kofi finally says they don't have much time, and then obviously they get interrupted this time by Jey Uso. We get a full entrance through the crowd, and Xavier Woods thinks the fans like Jey Uso. That earns him more booing, and with Woods being stunned that he can't even talk to Jay. After a while, Uso says that New Day sucks, and the chant sends the two of them to the back. Before Jay can say too much, though, the bloodline pop up on the screen and say Jay should have stuck with them instead of going back to Roman Reigns. Next week, Solo Sikoa will officially become the tribal chief, and everyone will acknowledge him. Then Drew McIntyre comes through the crowd to jump Jey Uso. The Claymore takes too long to set up, though, and Uso hits him with a super kick. But the Glasgow Kiss puts Jay down, And after teasing leaving, McIntyre runs back and hits the Claymore after all. We then get our first match where Chad Gable defeats Otis via submission with the ankle lock after Ivy Nile had provided a distraction to allow him to lock it in. We then get video of Rhea Ripley, who wants her title back, and then we cut to a video of Liv Morgan where she's laughing about hurting Ripley, and she's going to finish her off for good next Monday. We then get Judgment Day. They have plans for Rhea Ripley and the War Raiders. Finn Balor wishes Raquel Rodriguez luck tonight. We then get where they're supposed to get R-Truth versus Pete Dunne, but it never takes place as Dunne attacks him in the aisleway and really beats him down in the aisleway before the match, so it never happens. We then get Dakota Kai defeating Zoe Stark via pinfall with the GTK. This advances her to the finals of the Intercontinental Women's title tournament. We then get kind of a video package of the history of Raw, kind of showing great moments and all the history that they've had on USA Network and all the other networks they've been on, just great moments and all that kind of stuff. We then get Damian Priest and the War Raiders defeating the Judgment Day when Damian hits the South of Heaven on Dom Mysterio. We then get Adam Pearce. He gives Jey Uso a match with Drew McIntyre on the Netflix premiere next week. We then get another look at the mysterious symbol that we've seen over the last few weeks, which now turns into the design of a mask. This is very clearly Pentagon Jr. now. The mask looks just like his. So obviously, and you know, the symbol at the beginning was a zero with a slash through it. So zero fear, the whole thing he does. So it wasn't all that unobvious from the beginning, but once they showed the mask, it was pretty easy to figure out who it's going to be. We then get Ludwig Kaiser. He comes out to the ring to talk. He is the real star and is European elegance, so he wants Braun Breaker out here right now. And obviously, this means anybody but Braun Breaker is going to come out. But Sheamus comes out and beats him down instead. We then get Rey Mysterio giving Otis a pep talk in the back. With the Alpha Academy gone, New Day comes up to mock Mysterio for being a locker room leader. And then Mysterio issues a challenge for a match, and New Day mocks him, but seems to accept. So he doesn't say who his partner is going to be. So a lot of people think that this may be where the Pentagon debut may happen. So it might be Ray and Dragon Lee, maybe just Ray and Pentagon, maybe Ray and somebody else or one of the other guys from the LWO. But a lot of people are thinking maybe this is where that debut happens. We then get Lyra Valkyria. She defeats Io Sky via pinfall when she gets her knees up on the over the moonsault and then rolls her up on as a result. So Lyra will face Dakota Kai in the final of the IC title tournament. And then we get, to close the show, we get Seth Rollins and CM Punk. They come out to go face-to-face. They trade some insults before Rollins gets to the point by bringing up Punk leaving and then coming back to get the credit. Punk talks about respecting the pioneers, and they have all of the arrows in his back. He liked being here, but he didn't like the person running the place. Next week, he's bringing a bunch of arrows and putting them down Rollins' throat. Rollins calls Punk a cancer that will be cut out next week when Rollins burns him to the ground. And then we have a huge stare down to end the show. I thought Valkyria and Sky really exceeded expectations. I thought they really blew it out of the water. I thought that match in the IC title tournament was really good. It's not shocking whatsoever considering how talented the two girls are, but I definitely thought that was the best match on Raw for sure. We'll move from there to NXT. We open NXT with Kalani Jordan defeating Lola Vice via pinfall after Cora Jade had distracted, allowing Jordan to roll Vice up. Post-match, Jade unloads on both of them with the kendo stick, but Stephanie Vaquer makes the save. Vice then accidentally elbows Vaquer in the face when Jade ducks and panic ensues. We then get some NXT awards handed out. The match of the year was Obafemi versus Josh Briggs and Dijak from Stand and Deliver. Briggs is the only one that really talks, as I think Dijak's obviously not with the company, and then Obafemi will be out later. But he thanks everyone for who voted for them and hopes that everyone feasted their eyes on this match. Obviously, an homage to Dijak. We then get video of Julia It's just talking about her match next week at New Year's Evil. But she wants to join the list of great NXT Women's Champions. She wants to cement herself on that list. When they get Moment of the Year for NXT Awards, Joe Hendry appearing in NXT. Hendry appears and is grateful and teases another appearance, and maybe maybe it'll be at the Raw on Netflix. We'll see. He kind of teases that he'll make another appearance, but he doesn't really say when. When they get Cedric Alexander getting interviewed, he isn't happy with Ethan Page doing what he did to Javon Evans, and then they seem to set up a match, and they don't really talk about when it will be. But Page comes in and taunts Alexander, and then they end up brawling, and Ava decides that we'll do this thing right now. So they go to the ring, and Ethan Page defeats Cedric Alexander via pinfall following a twist of fate. And the post-match, Page crushes Alexander's hand into a toolbox. So continuing to take out superstars and continuing to show more of an aggressive side from Ethan Page. We then get Igwe, DuPont, and Wes Lee. They seem to like what Sean Spears is telling them. And then Hank and Tank need a partner to go up against them tonight. We then get the Meta Girls of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson defeating Gigi Dolan and Shotzi Blackheart, as well as Caden Carter and Katana Chance when they hit a wheelbarrow into a cutter combo on Gigi Dolan. So I thought this was a strange result. Not that the Meta Girls won, but that they pinned Gigi, who's just come back, and they seem to have been kind of building her up. And she has a 6-woman tag next week on New Year's Evil. So I would have thought that maybe one of the Caden or Katana probably could have taken the pin, but really weird to see Gigi, the team of Gigi and Shotzi, take the pinfall here. So definitely a strange idea. We then get a post-match from the Unholy Union of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. They pop up on the screen and challenge the Meta Girls to a match with title implications, they say. We then get Lola Vice. She tries to apologize to Stephanie, who isn't having any of it. Kalani then comes in to mock them, and everyone has to be pulled apart. Cora Jade is watching when Ava comes in to put her in a fatal 4-way #1 contender match next week for a shot at the Women's North American Championship. So it'll be Lola versus Kalani versus Stephanie versus Cora. We then get Ava in her office with William Regal, Lexis King, and Charlie Dempsey. She says that apparently the rules aren't clear if the Heritage Cup can change via DQ. Therefore, next week, King and Dempsey will fight for the cup, one fall, sudden death round. And Regal is wanting nothing to do with this, so he walks away. We then get the Tag Team of the Year award handed out. It's obviously Nathan Frazier and Axiom, as they're the only team that's really held the Tag Team Championships this year, other than the War Dogs and that brief Chase U opportunity. But obviously Nathan and Axiom carried the division this year. We then get Izzy Dame. She defeats Sol Ruka via pinfall following the Sky High. Continued to kind of push the Zarya Sol Ruka kind of miscommunicating situation that they've been pushing over the last month or so. We then get Hank and Tank and says they might have a partner because they find Andre Chase just kind of sulking backstage, but they kind of hype him up and get him on their side, so he's going to be their partner tonight. We then get Female Wrestler of the Year, obviously the woman that's been the champion for 90% of the year, or at least 85% of the year, which is Roxanne Perez. She dominated the scene, so hardly a shock that she wins here, and Perez herself obviously isn't surprised. We then get Igwe, DuPont, and Lee. They defeat Hank, Tank, and Andre Chase when Igwe hits a stunner and pins Hank Walker. Andre Chase had kind of gotten a little surge there in the middle, but kind of remembers that Chase U is no longer around and gets all sad and kind of sulks away in the middle of the match. We then get Ashante the Adonis. He calls Carmen Petrovich about New Year's Eve, but gets a voicemail. So he says he'll spend it alone if he can't spend it with her. Nikita then comes in and invites him to a party, but he turns her down. We then get Sean Spears. He praises Izzy Dane for her performance earlier, but again gets turned down. The D'Angelo family comes in before anything happens, so Spears implies that he's coming for Tony. With Spears gone, D'Angelo tells the family to take him out. We then get Kel Dixon randomly showing up, Level Up legend Kel Dixon. He asks Andre Chase about the next semester. And but Chase says Chase U is dead. And that certainly is a sad way to end the year for old Andre Chase. Hopefully they figure out a way to bring it back, but we'll see. Um, we then get to the segment where they present the Male Superstar of the Year award, but Obafemi interrupts before anyone can be named. Femi says the award doesn't matter because it's just a popularity contest. He goes on about how he's going to win the title because I am the captain now. Kind of an homage to the Captain Phillips movie. Trick Williams then comes in saying he needs to dig deep to retain his title next week. Trick says, or calls Obafemi old beatable Oba, which is true because otherwise this match would be title for title because he would still be North American champion. He said, how long is Femi going to leave when he loses this time? Obviously making fun of the fact that he disappeared after he lost his North American championship. Eddie Thorpe comes in, sends them into each other, and then breaks the trophy over at Femi's head. He then holds the title up to end the show. So pretty good segment there at the end. Obviously leading towards our triple threat title match we have next week. I think it's pretty obvious that Thorpe is only there to take the pinfall from Trick, and then we'll have Trick and Oba probably at Stand and Deliver. But a little light on matches. I think there were only 3 matches total on the whole show, so I would give it to that 6-man, Igwe DuPont and Lee versus Hanky Tank and Andre Chase. Like I said, Andre Chase is usually pretty good at getting the crowd behind him, and gets the crowd pretty hype, and it had some good energy to it, so I would give it to that. We'll go from there to Dynamite. John Moxley is with the Death Riders, talks about how he would rather have the world title destroyed than letting it fall apart because he is just different. We then get Adam Copeland and FTR, and they are ready to fight the Death Riders tonight. We then get our opening match where Hangman Page defeats Orange Cassidy via pinfall with the Buckshot Lariat. Post-match, Page hits a pair of dead eyes on Orange Cassidy before beating up Christopher Daniels for trying to make him get off of Orange. We then get Jay White. He is ready to take out Wheeler Yuta and win the number 1 spot in next week's Casino Gauntlet. The Hurt Syndicate then defeat the Acclaim when Bowens basically leaves Max Caster behind, and then Lashley destroys him with a spear, a spine buster, and then makes him tap to the Hurt Lock. We then get Swerve Strickland. He is going to get back to the main event scene by winning the Casino Gauntlet. Julia Hart then defeats Jamie Hayter via pinfall following misting her in the face and kind of rolling her up from there. We get a look back at World's End and Kenny Omega's return. We then get Mercedes Moné to brag about her success and wish herself a happy new year. She gives us a video about herself and how she's coming for the Rev Pro Women's title against Mina Shirakawa at Wrestle Dynasty. The Undisputed Kingdom are then back together and seem rather pleased with themselves. We then get Jay White defeating Swerve Strickland and Roddy Strong when he hits the Blade Runner on Strong. Post-match, Swerve is busted open, so Ricochet goes after the cut with blood getting all over his white shirt. Swerve is sat in a chair in the ring, and Ricochet hits the Spirit Gun. The Undisputed Kingdom finally come out and chase Ricochet off. So Ricochet had kind of interfered in the middle and hit Swerve with a pair of scissors. So that's what busted him open. And then he continued to just go after the cut afterwards. We then get Jeff Jarrett. He says he has a big announcement, and his friends say that they have his back no matter what. Karen Jarrett comes in to say she needed a minute. She talks about how the business has almost torn them apart, but she is with him 100%. Jeff then holds up his boots and teases possibly retiring. We then get Mariah May. She brags about how awesome she is, pretty much, about how great of a champion she is and how no one in the division can stand up to her. We then get Jeff Jarrett. He puts his boots in the ring. He talks about how he's been around for a long time, and that means it's time to start thinking about wrapping things up. He talks about his family's history in wrestling and how much the Jarretts have meant to the business. He said then in 2002, he started his own promotion by betting on himself and is proud of what it became. That brings him to now, though. And no, he is not done yet. He signed his last talent contract and now has New Year's resolution is to be the world champion. And that means he's going to put himself in the Casino Gauntlet. We then look back at Christian Cage hurting Hook's hand over previous months and weeks. Hook swears revenge, and a match is made for January 15th. Powerhouse Hobbs then comes out and has a squash match and squashes two Jamokes. I didn't even write down their names, but he absolutely destroys them and pins them quickly. We then get the Learning Tree, who makes it clear that Chris Jericho isn't here tonight. They then trade insults with Cope and FTR, and a six-man seems to be set for Collision. And then at World's End, MJF is kind of laughing about the idea of Adam Cole taking that many people to beat him up. That's it for him and Cole, though, and he wants his world title back. He doesn't care what Moxley does with the company because all he wants is his belt, and the devil will get his due in 2025. We then get rated FTR of Cope, which is his new name. He's not Adam Copeland anymore. So Cope, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler defeat the Death Riders when they hit the Shatter Machine, followed by the Spear on Wheeler Yuta. So Cope and his new buddies are continuing to be thorns in the Death Riders' side. So we'll see if the feud makes it all the way to Revolution, or if we get that Mox versus Cope match before then. But the best match of the show was the first match, I would say, Orange Cassidy versus Hangman Page. A lot of gimmicks and kind of, just, chicanery going on in a lot of the matches. So that one's the one that got a good bit of time, and they told a pretty good story throughout. But we'll go from there to Impact. We open with Joe Hendry. He says that his New Year's resolution is to win the world title and leave them all chanting, "We believe." Ryan Nemeth then comes to interrupt him, saying his big brother isn't going to like this. The reality is that Hendry is a mid-carder, and no one here should trust what he says. Hendry likes Ryan's courage, and there is a thing called the Ryan Nemeth comedy special, which cured his insomnia because he said has been struggling to sleep lately. Ryan says he's ready to beat Rhino tonight. So Hendry says, let's just do it right now. So Rhino comes out, and Ryan actually does beat Rhino, but it's via DQ because Rhino uses a chair that Ryan had introduced into the match. We then get Jordan Grace. She's not happy with that Tessa Blanchard is back, and she's ready to prove herself in tonight's main event, which is a women's 8-woman. The Rascals then say they want the tag team titles, and then the Hardys come in and seem to think that match is a good idea, and they make the match for Genesis. We then get Ace Austin. He defeats Kushida via pinfall following the fold. Post-match, he thanks the fans for supporting Chris Bay and his injuries. Chris Bay has told Austin he wants him to go on a big singles run. Austin says he wants the world title, but Moose comes out to interrupt him. Or he says he wants the biggest title in TNA, of course, which would be the world title, but that leads Moose to come out, which obviously he isn't very happy that his title's not the biggest title. But he doesn't. He knows Austin doesn't want to face a real top guy like him. And Austin isn't having any of him insulting Chris Bay, and challenges Moose for the X Division title as soon as possible. He wants to face him right now, but obviously Santino comes out, makes the match for Genesis. So Moose basically says his title is the most important title, so that's the title that Ace should want to go after. And Moose kind of insults Chris Bay a little bit, and obviously that pisses off Ace. So Ace versus Moose for the X Division title at Genesis should be a solid match because Ace is a really good worker, and Moose is usually pretty good at working with smaller guys, I would say. Eric Young, Steve Macklin, and Jonathan Gresham aren't sure what they're doing next. Obviously pissed about how the last little while's gone for them. But then the system comes in and kind of interrupts them and stands in front of them while they're cutting their promo, and they attack the system. Ryan Nemeth is going to looked at in the doctor's room, and Nick Nemeth finally shows up. Ryan explains what happened when Joe Hendry and Rhino came in to kind of cool things down, and then Santino pops in to make a tag team match between the four of them for the future. We think at Mike Santana, he comes to the ring. He's disappointed by what happened at Final Resolution, but he's fought through adversity before. Santana holds up Josh Alexander's headgear, so the Northern Armory comes out to interrupt him. Alexander goes over Santana's history around TNA, but points out that he hasn't won anything since coming back. On the other hand, Alexander is a former world champion and the standard in this place. Santana then mocks Alexander's bare bald head, and Alexander is ready to fight. And then a match seems to be made for next week. So we'll see if that match happens next week or at Genesis, but we'll see. They then set up some security in place in the back for a potential Tessa Blanchard appearance, maybe getting involved in the main event. So they set up some security to stop her before she can get there. Frankie Kazarian isn't happy with the lack of attention and offers Slater the chance to be his trophy holder. And Slater says he's good and leaves with JDC coming through and saying he is not too pleased with what's been going on around here. Nick Nemeth is on the stage to talk about how Joe Hendry is the number one contender. Nemeth already said he already beat him at Bound for Glory, and he loves getting to represent the locker room as the world champion. Genesis is going to be a special show because they're both going to bring everything they have. Ryan Nemeth then comes out to say Hendry will stab Nick in the back the first chance he gets. Nick isn't happy with Ryan getting involved and leaves, and then Ryan blames the people for his big brother bailing on him. We then show that the security that has been posted in the back has been attacked and is laid out seemingly. So Tessa obviously has shown up and taken them out in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And then we get our main event, 8-woman tag, where Spitfire, Jordan Grace, and Masha Slamovich defeat Ash and Heather by Elegance, and Tasha Steelz and Rosemary when Slamovich hits the Requiem pile driver, which is basically the Storm Zero, on Tasha Steelz. And then post-match, Tessa Blanchard, of course, shows up, runs in to jump Jordan Grace as everyone brawls. Rosemary missed Slamovich as Blanchard takes Grace backstage, and then she literally throws her out of the building to end the show. I would assume that they're going to have a match before Jordan Grace leaves, but this may be a way to write her off at the same time because she got thrown out of the company basically by an invading force. So we'll see. But Ace and Kushida was definitely the best match of the show. I think it was one of the better matches of the week for sure. But that main event women's tag was pretty good as well. But we'll move from there to SmackDown and finish things up. We get Cody Rhodes coming out to get things going. We have a blue mat tonight, so kind of changing it up. And this is also the first 3-hour SmackDown, of course. I think it'll be 3 hours going forward from all that I've heard. So don't love that, but we'll see if they're able to use it as well as they did this time. This ended up being a really good SmackDown. I would say it was one of the best, maybe of the last year or so. But like I said, Cody Rhodes comes out. He talks about how everything is about to change for WWE when they move to Netflix next week for Raw. His excitement is tempered, though, because he is not currently cleared to wrestle because of Kevin Owens. He's still ready for the Royal Rumble, and Drew McIntyre comes out randomly to interrupt. He says he isn't here to fight because he appreciates what Cody Rhodes has done. This is the best era WWE has ever had, and a lot of it is due to him. Cody, of course. McIntyre thinks Rhodes needs someone to watch his back, but Rhodes says that he wants to talk about how they are kindred spirits, but doesn't believe what McIntyre is saying. Rhodes offers to fight, but McIntyre goes to leave and says Rhodes tells Rhodes to watch his back. Kevin Owens then comes out, jumps Cody Rhodes from behind, and the fight is on with officials officially breaking it up. We then get Shinsuke Nakamura defeating Andrade via pinfall following the Kinshasa. Post-match, LA Knight comes out to take out Nakamura, saying he's coming for the U.S. title. He'll be there for Nakamura every time Nakamura turns around. We then get Pretty Deadly in the back. They're talking to Apollo Crews when Legado Del Fantasma comes in. Legado is not happy that Pretty Deadly lied about them attacking the Street Profits. And then things start to get physical. Nick Aldis comes in and wants to have a chat with Pretty Deadly. Aldis then is talking to Pretty Deadly when DIY comes in and suggests that Pretty Deadly help them with the Motor City machine guns tonight. We then get Michin defeating Piper Niven via pinfall after hitting 8 defeat. We then get Paul Heyman coming out to talk about Monday's Tribal Combat match. Heyman and Roman Reigns had trained and groomed Solo Sikoa to be the next Tribal Chief. Sikoa was being made ready when Cody Rhodes caught lightning in a bottle and beat Reigns at WrestleMania. Then Solo Sikoa stole the Ulafala because he never earned it. Now Sikoa has brought in various people for a new bloodline, including Jacob Fatu, who is not welcome outside of the United States prison system. Sikoa then comes out to interrupt. Heyman knows this isn't good. Heyman brings up Sikoa having him put through a table in Madison Square Garden in front of his children, but Sikoa reaches for and receives the microphone. Sikoa says on Monday he needs someone who he can trust. If Reigns wins Tribal Combat, Solo will acknowledge him, and Heyman will give Reigns the Ulafala. But if Sikoa wins, he will receive the Ulafala and own Heyman forever, which makes Heyman basically piss himself. And Reigns will have to acknowledge Solo as the Tribal Chief. We then get a Motor City Machine Guns package, basically saying they want their titles back. We then get the match between the Machine Guns and DIY, but it ends in a double DQ when Legado del Fantasma and Pretty Deadly fight into the ring, and it kind of results in a brawl between all four teams. We then get Nia Jax. She's worried that Tiffany Stratton isn't here to kind of talk about strategy, but Candice LeRae is here for her and says everything will be all right. We then get Sami Zayn. He runs into Carmelo Hayes, who isn't happy with what happened with Braun Strowman last week. The Usos then pop in, and Hayes calms down before leaving. Zayn then says he's got to go get ready, but Kevin pops in and tells Jey Uso that he better watch his back. We then get Cody Rhodes. He is going to leave, but Nick Aldis stops him. Aldis wants Rhodes to put his hatred for Kevin Owens aside and think of the bigger picture. Rhodes then says he's going to, that isn't going to that's not going to happen, because if he sees Owens or someone even that looks like Owens, he's dropping them on sight. We then get the women's title match between Nia Jax and Naomi, where Nia Jax is able to retain via pinfall following Tiffany Stratton hitting Naomi with the briefcase and Nia hitting the Annihilator. We then get Tiffany Stratton smacking Nia Jax and Candice LeRae with her briefcase, which allows Bianca Belair to hit the KOD on Nia Jax. And then the cash-in is on. Finally, Tiffany Stratton cashes in. She defeats Nia Jax via pinfall after hitting the prettiest moonsault ever, and she becomes the new WWE women's tag team, or women's champion, not tag team, regular singles champion. But finally she cashes in. They have teased it, and it finally happens. Smart to do it here on the first 3-hour SmackDown. Give it a big moment. The first SmackDown of the new year. So I thought it was really smartly done. Really well timed. Obviously, a lot of us would have liked to have seen it sooner, just to get the belt off of Nia, but it finally happened. And Tiffany hopefully will reign supreme as WWE Women's Champion for at least a little while. So happy for her. Always happy to see one of my NXT kids graduate and then become champion. So, and she deserves it. She's super talented and been super awesome in her role. So, but then we go to the back. Jacob Fatu wants the whole world to acknowledge Solo Sikoa before they come out for their match. And then the Bloodline defeats the Usos and Sami Zayn when Solo hits the Samoan Spike on Jey while he's pinning Jacob Fatu towards the end of the match. So the Bloodline has, the new Bloodline has all the momentum going into Tribal Combat on Monday. But I thought that main event tag was the best match. Obviously, the best moment was Tiffany cashing in, got a huge pop. So really good moment. But I thought it was a solid SmackDown for the first 3 hours, or for the first 3-hour SmackDown. Again, I'm not super excited about being 3 hours every week, but if they can present TV like this, obviously they won't have a cash in every week, but if they could put together some good matches and good moments and stuff, I think it'll be all worth it. But we'll see how it goes. But we'll go through some match rankings. I did not do a TV match rankings of this week just because I just wasn't blown away with a ton of stuff, and I just didn't think it was necessarily worth it this week. But I will give you some pay-per-view match rankings. All 3 Continental Classic matches will be on here for sure. But number 1 would be Ospreay and Okada for me. Ospreay and Fletcher would be number 2. So Ospreay, obviously the MVP of the night. Monet and Statlander would be number 3. I thought Takeshita and Hobbs really surprised me, but Takeshita is one of those guys that's like Ospreay. He can't have a bad match even if he tried. But he really brought Hobbs up, I thought, in the situation. So, and then Okada and Ricochet would be number 5 for me. So, I'm not telling you not to watch TV from this week. Obviously, I would never do that, but maybe check out the matches of the night that I suggested, and maybe some of the moments that I obviously talked about on SmackDown there. But definitely a lower level week on TV as far as matches go, but moments I feel like took the cake this week, and kind of promos and stuff like that. So thank you for joining me as always. Happy New Year again, and we will see you next week.